welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I am your host, Hal, and with me here today is Buster. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Buster, Corp, True Buster. I have too many variations on my name. I usually do YouTube analysis videos, but I also do Too Many podcasts over at the Modular Media channel, which is basically my second channel, my group channel, where me and a bunch of other fellows, we do a bunch of podcasts on various things. One of which is a tokusatsu podcast, and hey, we're going to talk about a tokusatsu later, so that's going to be fun.
That is going to be fun. Yeah, you do too many podcasts, and now you're on Too Many Movies.
Yeah, it all lines up. Brand synergy, baby.
Yeah, brand synergy. Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of Too Many Movies, that's this podcast that we're doing. And hey, there's a movie I wanted to talk about today. We watched a movie, sort of. So when I asked you to be on the podcast, I gave you a list of all the things that I own. And I'm surprised you actually did end up going with the first movie we're talking about today, Mystery Science Theater 3000, The Movie. Because I'm a massive MST3K nut. And what's your history with them, Buster?
Okay, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but... So I am, a moderately casual fan of Linkara. I like watching his videos. Okay. And he references... Oh, yeah, that guy. But, he referencing MS2K a lot. So that kind of, led me to, okay, let me go check out what the hell all these funny clips are. And I kind of became a casual fan. I haven't watched every episode, and I've mostly watched the Netflix revival stuff, which I quite enjoyed. But, I casually like this. I'm not, as hardcore into it as everyone else, but I like going to, riff tracks when they have, a fandom event in the movies. I like just the entire aesthetic of the puppets and stuff. I really like MS2K, but I've not seen this movie, and it's a weird movie. I think it's solid, but it's a weird one.
Yeah. So So my history with the bots and Joel and Mike is that I think I was at my dad's work when I was 10 or something, or 12, I don't know. I was a kid, and I remember my dad was explaining the concept of this show, and I'm like, what is this? And he's just like, oh, let me look up a clip on YouTube. And we watched he found a clip on YouTube. It was of when they riffed on this short, A Date with Your Family, where it's just about the proper way to have dinner with your family in 1950s America. And it was the funniest goddamn thing I had ever seen in my life. I could not breathe. I was laughing so hard.
Mood.
And then, as the years went on, I discovered more and more of the show. And when I started doing Letterboxd, I discovered that Tubi, shout out to Tubi, has a whole bunch of episodes. And so every time I'd watch an episode on Tubi, I would just log the movie on Letterboxd, and I'd just be like, I watched it on MST3K. It's I'm not technically watching the movie, but I would never watch these movies to begin with anyway. Yeah. So, but yeah, I had no idea there was a movie of Mystery Science Theater until I was perusing Bull Moose, which is my local DVD shop that I've mentioned here before. And I usually like to go to the TV section because I found some Mystery Science Theater stuff there in the TV section. And in there I found Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, on DVD. And I'm like, they made a movie? And I'm like, how the hell do you make this a movie? And well, I watched it now for the podcast, and as I said in my Letterboxd review, it's quite literally just an episode of the show.
Yeah, the thing with MS2K is that the episodes are already movie length.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why that's kind of a niche show when you really think about it. Obviously, it's just such a cheesy idea. You're literally just watching people watch movies. That's essentially the show, which is really funny. And the more times I've watched these episodes, I've realized it is kind of it is very campy, just like this whole setup of the show, just like even just the way it's filmed, like you can tell like these guys are just doing this like in some backwater studio in Minnesota. It's just like, the puppetry doesn't always line up. That's one thing I did notice. Like I watched a couple episodes in preparation for this podcast, just so that I can be like, oh, I love Mystery Science Theater. It's like, it's a very messy show, but like that's kind of why I like it and why I find it so charming. It undoubtedly has soul, yes, and I appreciate that. But like, you watch these guys, they're like doing all these scenes in like one take, and it's really hard to riff on a movie. I don't know if you've ever done.
Oh
that,
no,
it's
like
really hard.
Yeah, like this movie kind of like proved how hard it was, because I watched this in a call with my friends. I was like, I need to watch this for the podcast. Want to watch it with me? And it's like it was like sometimes, especially in these like old boring movies where like nothing's really like happening every second, and you kind of have to fill like every minute with a joke. It's like, like it can be hard to stretch for jokes, and sometimes you can't even make a joke, and you just have to watch the movie, and it's just a bit dull. Cause like I think outside of like the really impressive effects very soulful effects work here. Like, it's kind of like one of the weaker episodes of the show if we compare it to, like, the whole, like, MST3K lineage.
I would say so, yeah. So, I guess we could, like, we could go on and on about the show. I feel like we should save that for, like, another day, because I do actually have some volumes of the show, like, on DVD, but that's for other episodes. Yeah. But I think we should just talk about the actual movie here. So, the reason I'm saying it's literally just an episode of the show is because that's all it is. Now, there is one key difference. The budget is a little higher, so you have a nicer camera, you have more cuts in the movie. Like it's not just, you're not just like the one angle of like the static camera shot of like Joel and the bot, or I say Joel, it's Mike this time, because this is the post Joel era. This is the Mike era when they made this movie. And so actually, sidetrack, answer me this. Are you Team Joel or Team Mike?
Jonah.
Okay. You know what? Fair enough. You know what? That's a trick question, because I don't have an answer myself. Like, I think all three of them bring something to the table. And
like, I prefer Joel's comedic energy, but Mike isn't that bad,
Yeah, well, here's my thing with Mike. He's not a good actor. Like, you can definitely tell he was not meant to act. Now, with that said, he is very funny. Yeah. But that's like the thing, is like you can definitely tell when they try to do like more high concept skits in the show. Like he's just like, he just doesn't deliver lines that well, but he's a really funny guy. So it's like, and plus that this show is not really meant for performance art. So like, of course he's not that great of an actor, but I am more of a purist. I am more Team Joel, but I don't hate Mike. I think he's a really funny guy. Anyway, all right, sidetrack over. Anyway, back to what I was saying. What the fuck was I saying?
You were talking about the movie.
Yeah, so the movie, it's a higher budget. You get more angles of Mike and the bots. You get, I'm sure, like, they did, like, multiple takes, so, like, the performances here are a little better than if they did it, like, because like with the show they would just like do things in one take, so if they flubbed the line they just kept it in, whereas like here you have the luxury of like, having multiple takes, multiple lines, and that's literally the only thing that this movie does, because there's no like cinematic grand scale to it when you really get down to it. It's filmed in a cinematic way because they're using a much higher quality camera when it's scenes of them on the Satellite of Love. But when they're in the theater, it's just, them in the corner as per usual. But like that's about it. I think I heard somewhere that like the movie they watch has like more expensive rights than the kinds of movies they usually watch. Which, like, I don't know how. It literally seems like any other movie they would watch on the show, but I guess this one just had a higher copyright expense or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's like the movie they picked was like so boring, and I'm like, why did, like, I felt like this doesn't feel like a grand movie event that's like, that like, you know, requires like me to go to the theater. It just feels like, oh, I can just watch this on TV with usual.
Yeah. Now, the way I was thinking they were going to do it is because, Dr. Forrester was just like, oh, I've shown them the worst of the worst, but today I'm showing them something even more bad. It's just like, oh, like, so this is like peak badness. It's like, no, they've watched worse movies on the show.
Yeah.
Like, far, far worse. And they've gone like more insane watching worse movies than they did here. Like here, they were just kind of like, oh, whatever. Like it's run of the mills bad. And it's like, okay, well, again, like you're making this the movie. Like you kind of want to amp up the stakes here a little. But again, that also kind of ties into the idea of like, well, it's a movie based on a show that has no narrative. So like, how do you make that cinematic, you know?
Yeah. I like there probably was like extra ideas like in the when this movie is being conceptualized, but I'm pretty sure like it was like this movie had a very like low budget. It made its budget back in the like box office to like my knowledge. But it's also like they probably were under time crunch because they were still doing the TV show at the time. So they're like, let's just make it a TV show episode with a slightly more expensive movie to riff on.
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing. It's like, I say that, like, how do you make this a movie? But, like, they've made movies of non-narrative TV shows. Like, they did the SpongeBob movie. They did the Bob's Burgers movie. Yeah. They did Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
The Simpsons movie.
The Simpsons movie, exactly. So, like, they've done it before. Like, people have done this before where they take a show and put it on the big screen. Obviously, to varying degrees of quality. Like I said, the Simpsons movie, the Bob's Burgers movie, the SpongeBob movie, and Thomas and the Magic Railroad, which is above all of them, but that's an episode for a different time. But anyway, my point is, like, it's possible to do that. And they don't really do that. Like, I feel like there are episodes of Mystery Science Theater that have been more cinematic than this one. Like, I think there was I feel like there were a couple episodes of like the revival that kind of had more of a cinematic oomph to them than this did, like wasn't there like a wedding subplot or something?
Yeah, there was like an ongoing like subplot like in the episodes. Yeah. And even then, like in like the sci-fi era, like seasons 8, 9, and 10, wasn't there like an ongoing like little like story with like more like angles with the villains?
Yeah, because it's like Pearl is like chasing them across like the universe and stuff like that. Like, yeah, they had, yeah. So like, obviously, not only is this possible for other shows, but we've seen this happen literally within Mystery Science Theater. So like, it's just kind of odd that this is what is considered the movie, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Now, with that all said, I would probably call these nitpicks because honestly, as a huge fan of the show, and this just being not even a longer episode, like literally just an episode of the show, I still had fun. Like, I love the show. I love watching them riff on terrible movies, and that's exactly what I got.
Yeah.
If it was like just another episode, if it was filmed like just another episode of the show and they just called it like, one of the episodes in one of the seasons, then it'd be like, okay, I kind of get it. Like, it's just part of the show. Like, it's literally no different than any other episode of the show is my point.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of weird.
Like, because it's like...
Yeah, it did. I was disappointed too. A little.
Yeah. I mean, it was still fun. Even,
of course.
Yeah, and like, it's still MS3K. They still have those, like, great characters riffing on the bad movies. But it's also just, like, I feel like the movie itself, like, the actual riffs, it was on, like, the weaker end of the MS3K, like, I said this earlier, lineage. So, but that's just me, I still had fun. Like, it's not the greatest thing ever, but, yeah, if I had fun, I had fun,
Exactly. Again, like literally the only reason I have these problems is because it calls itself the movie version of Mystery Science Theater. Like, you're expecting a little bit more cinematic oomph to it.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally where all my problems come from. Like, if it didn't call itself that, if it was literally just an episode of the show, I would have no issues. It's just like, oh, this is just another episode. So, Do you happen to own this on any physical media, or did you just find this
I
somewhere?
use special means.
Ah,
Because it's
okay.
usually on Tubi. Tubi has a listing for it, but
Yes.
wasn't on Tubi like at the moment we're recording this, so it's weird. Because like
Interesting.
they have
Yeah,
all the other MS3K episodes. What's stopping the movie from getting on Tubi?
I don't know. Yeah, dude, that's just strange to me. Tubi's like Netflix like that, where they're just like, oh, we have some things sometimes, and then other
Yeah,
times we have other things. It's like,
I will
whatever.
say they at least keep the things I go to Tubi for like consistently. So
That's true. No, yeah, that's true. Because like I remember they had like Hunger Games years ago, and it's like I'm not really going to Tubi for Hunger Games. I'm going to Tubi for, you know, Doctor Alien or the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes, or I don't know, the Munsters. They may have the Munsters on there. I
they
actually
have a
have no
lot of like
idea.
niche older TV shows.
They do. Like that's why I love Tubi so much. They have like a bunch of niche crap that I love.
Yeah, like they freaking have like nearly every Transformers cartoon. They're starting to
Yeah.
get like some of the Shout Factory Sentai series. It's good.
They have both Dinosaur Hotel movies. I mean,
Yeah,
come
it's
on.
peak.
Yeah, it's peak. Oh, it's so peak. But anyway, yeah, was there anything else you wanted to say about Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie,
It
before we
was
get into talking about the
okay. Not
DVD?
it was okay. I kind of was disappointed, but hey, I still had fun watching it, especially because I was watching it with friends. So we kind of had an
Hmm.
inception. We are watching a movie of people watching a movie.
Yeah. I've thought about showing friends of mine episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000 because like we do a bunch of VC movie nights. I'm currently watching through all the Disney sequels with a
Oh
bunch of people on my
no! Yeah,
server.
I saw. I've been seeing
Yeah,
those reviews on Letterboxd. I'm so sorry for you.
yeah. No, I mean sometimes we get genuine bangers like Patch's London Adventure, Return of Jafar, and sometimes we get Tarzan and Jane. So
Uh,
yeah, it's a gamble.
yeah.
And sometimes we get bafflingly horny movies like Ariel's Beginning.
Anyway, talk about the DVD.
Yeah, let's talk about the DVD. Okay, so so like I said, I found Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, in on DVD in my local shop. By the way, I just want to say I love like the what is it, the tagline they use where they're just like, every year Hollywood makes hundreds of movies. This is one of them. It's
It's
just
kind
so
of like a
funny.
precursor to the movie of all time.
Yeah, exactly. This is the movie of all time, which I mean that does describe this movie very well. But anyway, it's a Rogue Pictures release of the DVD. And literally all it is just the movie. Like when I put it on, the menu popped up and it was like play movie languages. It's like, wow, they're just not wasting any time. And it's like, okay, you know what? I respect that because sometimes you don't need like a billion special features. You can just have the DVD. You can just have the movie on the DVD. Uh, Another noteworthy thing. Do you remember when DVDs used to have like tabs that clicked, like to
Kinda?
kind of like, yeah. So like this DVD has those where like they have tabs where you like pinch them open and then you can open up
Oh,
the
I hate
box.
those. I hate those.
Yeah, it's like very strange. I never understood why they did that. I mean, looking back, I'm quite nostalgic for those because, like, you know, Blu-rays don't really have those, and it's just like, oh, it reminds me of the good old days of the early 2000s. But like, I mean, that's probably just me in my rose-tinted nostalgia goggles. Like, it's
Yeah.
just kind of strange, but like, uh, whatever. Anyway, it's obviously a very thinly veiled well, not thinly veiled, what's the word I'm looking for, it's a very
Basic.
simple, a very basic, very simple DVD. But like, I don't know, I'm not really looking for something complex for this movie. Like I said, like I had fun watching it like you did. It's literally just an episode of the show. I'm not really that pissed off by that because I mean, there's really not much you can do to make an epic cinematic version of Mystery Science Theater. Like that's just not what the show is about. Like the show is just about making jokes while watching a movie. Like just totally putting a movie down for being awful. Like that's basically what the show is. And you know, I don't need nothing so special, so I'm keeping this DVD.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah, I had fun. I would watch it again, definitely. I consider it a nice addition to the collection, but if it's not my favorite thing from Mystery Science Theater, but we'll save those for another day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
This is not the end of my discussions on Mystery Science Theater on this podcast, for sure.
Ooh. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you said that your DVD was released by Rogue Pictures. I think, like, Shout Factory did a re-release, because they have been re-releasing nearly, like, every MS3K thing they can get their hands on. So,
yeah.
Like, maybe that will have some extras. I don't know. I could be completely talking out my ass.
No, well, I mean, Shout Factory, they just do whatever they want, unless, you know, they contractually can't. I've always wanted, like, a complete Mystery Science Theater collection, but I know they can't because of copyright of, like, the certain movies they've talked about.
And even then, like, the things they do have are, like, stupid expensive.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, the things they do have are really crazy expensive, and it's just like, I really want their Gamera collection, because I love when they talk about the Gamera movies, but, like, that's crazy expensive. It's like, I don't have the money for that at the moment, please. So, all right. That was our discussion on Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie. Very long title, I must say. We should talk about something with a more simpler title. Something like our second movie. Is the second?
Okay,
so the second
I need to
talk about,
explain
is this a movie? Yeah, you know what? I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna let you take the stage now,
right.
Buster. Please.
This is Kamen Rider ZO. Now, okay, the way a lot of, like, Japanese tie-in movies, especially for Toku films, work is that, like, they're not, like, always the length of movies. So, like, this movie you're talking about, ZO, is 40 to 50 minutes. And the reason that is because they usually package them with other movies, like other 20 to 30 minute movies. And as a little, like, here is a little, like, special event. They still do this to this day with, like, the current Kamen Rider and Sentai movies. They'll have, like, okay, 30-minute Sentai feature and then a hour-long Kamen Rider feature based on the current shows. So, like, this is kind of like how they roll, and I that's pretty cool. And I do think the shorter length enhances this, because I really love ZO. It's one of my favorite things of the Kamen Rider franchise.
Interesting. Yeah, no, so I appreciated the, like, 40 to 50 minute length. I'm not one to usually complain about movie lengths, but it is nice when something is as short as it is. Like, it's a breeze. It's simple. There's no fat to it. And that's a good way to describe this movie. There's no fat to it. Like, it literally just gets to the point pretty quickly.
Like, even to the opening scene.
Yeah. Well, with that said, I mean, I was a little confused at the beginning just because it kind of just drops you in. But I was able to pick up pretty quickly just what's going on. But a little bit of that weird Japanese way of making movies was, like, a little daunting, but at the same time, I do love a lot of Japanese cinema, so, like, I got into it pretty quickly, I must say.
Yeah, nice to hear. Like, I know in the Letterboxd review you were really impressed by the creature design here.
Oh my god, dude! So I'm a huge, like, fan of puppets and stuff like that. Like, I mean, my favorite movie is The Dark Crystal, obviously, duh. But, like, that's kind of what this was giving me. Like, it was giving me Dark Crystal vibes. Just, like, the way, like, these creatures are all, like, designed, and, like, there was thought put into them, you know?
Yeah, Kenta Mamiya, the director, like, I think he also did the creature design, but, like, he would later go on to do, like, basically an entire, like, Toku series called Garo, which is basically just more of this, but, like, a bit more, like, with modern effects. This was, like, in 2005. But, like... Right. Even then, back when he was working for Toei on Kamen Rider and Sentai, he just, like, he did some cool shit, and, like, ZO's kind of the peak of that, where it's, like, and I'd argue it's the effects peak in general, because this is before they tried to, like, learn CGI, but, like, with, like, models and stuff, but, like, this was, but this was, like, right at the peak of practical effects. Like, you know. Yeah,
this was still the era where you could have, like, a stop motion creature, and then you have, like, the main action hero, the grasshopper, Kamen Rider, like, fighting him, and he's also a stop motion effect.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a physical suit, I think, but
it is a physical suit. But I'm saying like during remember that scene where he's like fighting the spider creature,
oh
and
yeah,
like it's so obviously like the Kamen Rider is like also a stop motion effect just for those scenes, and then it cuts to him like in the actual suit, and he's like moving much faster than a stop motion effect.
oh yeah, that happens.
I know it does happen. I love that shit. That happened in King Kong actually when like because King Kong is a stop motion effect, and like when he picked up the screaming girl, like it cuts to her like a close up of her being like ah, and then like he like picks her up, and like it's so obviously a stop motion doll like in his hand, and it's just like that's not the woman.
Yeah, but it's very like visually striking still.
It is visually striking. I love that shit.
Yeah.
I love when like they try to pretend, because like I mean obviously you can only do so much with stop motion effects, but like I love that is what is my point. I love when they do that because it's really charming.
Yeah, and I argue like there's quite nothing like this. Like I guess they did release a movie later called J, like which kind of had like a similar effects work, like but like. Maybe we can talk about that later, but like ZO is very much like it's the only thing related to ZO. They did release like a manga adaptation, but that's a whole other thing. We're talking about movies here. But like this is the only time you'll see like ZO outside of like the Billion Rider crossover movies where he just appears as a suit, no voice lines. So this is like the only time. This is like basically when they were trying to bring. Okay, the 90s was a weird time for Kamen Rider because there wasn't like a show. So, like, they just tried to do these one-off experiment movies, and this was one of them, basically where it's like, hey, if it works, then we'll greenlight a show, and they didn't.
Okay, so there's more Kamen Rider movies, is what you're saying.
Oh, there's like 100 of them. They either tie into current shows, or that are just, like, one-offs.
Okay, so answer me this. Why did you pick this one in particular then?
Well, it's my favorite one, and also I just think the effects work kind of ties, like, it gives me like I guess I want to like tangentially related to MS3K, and like they both have a lot of practical effects, and they were both in the 90s, so I'm like, just I'll tangentially loosely connect it to the other topic.
No, I get that. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, no, that's cool. So it's your favorite. How many more Kamen Rider movies are... I mean, you already answered that, actually. I'm just realizing. You said, like, there's hundreds?
Yeah, like, either tying into current shows or, like... There are, like, a couple more one-offs. Like, again, I mentioned J. Before this, there was Shin Prologue, which... Actually, like, J and Shin Prologue also have, like, a similar kind of, like, whoa, practical effects. Shin Prologue, in particular, has, like, an insane monster creature sequence. But that's only in the second half. Otherwise, Shin Prologue's kind of boring, in my opinion.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so this is like a whole other world, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's been running for 50 years.
Yeah, that's insanity.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. That's cool. You know what? It sometimes what's the word? I don't want to say frightened because I feel like that's too extreme of an emotion, but I do get a little
overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed is a better way of putting it. Like, yeah, whenever like, people are just like, oh, you got to get into this. And it's just like how this thing that's been running for 50 years and there's like a billion different like versions of it. It's like, oh, that's a bit overwhelming. But you know what? Like, it's cool. Like when you can just watching this 50-minute movie was actually really refreshing. Just being like, oh, like I don't necessarily know, like maybe there's like intricate little details to like references to other things in here, but like I don't get those, but like I'm still able to enjoy it for what it is, because it's just a simple story of a boy being pursued by a bunch of monsters. So like that's what I appreciate about this. It's like I'm sure there's like different references to other things in this Kamen Rider universe, but like I don't get those.
Well, here's the
thing.
I
don't have to get those.
Kamen Rider references itself when it's convenient, and even then, like in this movie, like the references are mostly like storytelling, like, oh, we're just remixing an old concept. Like the grasshopper, the first Kamen Rider was a grasshopper. That's why he's a grasshopper. And like it just kind of like try to do a redux. It's like remixing old ideas in new ways, and like all the science stuff, because a lot of old Kamen Rider uses science. It's like so it's mostly just like thematic references than like outright remember this from this.
Yeah. Remember the time, Lois?
Yeah, remember the time Michael Keaton Batman show? God, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned that movie, but whatever.
Oh, I thought you were saying like Michael Keaton crossed over with Kamen Rider.
No, he did not.
Okay.
I was referencing The Flash because I was just like, because when you were mentioning like referencing to self, I was like, yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't know, but like this is more thematic references of like if you know, you know, but if you don't, you can still appreciate it. Like you've obviously like you liked it, you know.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun just because, like, I mean, it's that cheesy Japanese way of filmmaking, just like everyone's like so super serious and they're like wishing their head and like everybody's fighting all the time. It's like, but like, I love that shit. Yeah, like, I think that's really fun. It is very earnest, absolutely. Just the fights are really fun. The creature effects, the creature designs, as we were saying, are really cool. I really like that spider. Yeah. Just like, I don't know, the way it like opened its mouth. It looked like something out of Predator, but like, you know, it still looked like its own thing, and I appreciated that. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to mention. The bat creature had the eyes in the hands, and I was just like, that's like that one creature from the Del Toro movie.
Pan's Labyrinth?
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah.
I mean, Del Toro is, like, he does like Toku. He does like Ultraman, I do know. So he has taken pictures of Ultraman. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was directly inspired by ZO for, like, a couple of, like, those things.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, it was so similar that I'm just like, okay, so Pan's Labyrinth was definitely, like, that creature was definitely an homage to this. Like, I don't know. Like, it was such a gigantic coincidence, but it wasn't like it was definitely not stealing.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make that clear. Like, they're just very, very similar. It has to be an homage. Like that's my point.
Yeah. Like it's just like a lot of the point I'm trying to make is a lot of people, like, even if you don't know if they're into Kamen Rider, they're probably into like a tokusatsu, because this is just like a wide spanning medium of shit that's like, not shit, but like good shit. Like, I mean, there's shit, but like
good shit.
Yeah, there's shit, but mostly good shit.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the case with everything. Yeah. You're gonna have your good stuff, you're gonna have your bad stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's just really nice to see, like, this is probably, I'd argue this is tokusatsu at its purest form. Like, at least in the 90s. Like, of course, like, we have more CGI effects, and like, not saying the CGI effects are bad. It's just, like, I prefer them being used to enhance fights for, like, particle effects than rather than be the whole show.
Yes.
Because, like...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because, like, they do some really cool shit with the particle effects in later shows. Of, like, oh, this really enhances the hits. But, like, everything else kind of is hit and miss. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think on average, CGI should be used to enhance something rather than just being the something. I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but like, yeah, I completely agree. It's a lot more impressive when it's used to enhance rather than being the whole thing, being the whole effect.
And of course there's digital effects here, like with a little lightning and stuff, but like, this was like 90s digital effects, so it's very simplistic, but still very well utilized in this film.
It's charming. I do like how it's implemented, the way it is. Like, it's obviously fake, but like I have a bit of nostalgia for that. I'm just like, I kind of like that. It's very charming and quaint.
Yeah, and that describes this movie really charming and quaint. But like, I just eat that shit up, because it's like, I really love the big brother dynamic the main protagonist has with the kid. Like, that's just, like, there's episodes of Kamen Rider that are basically like that, and that's just, I argue this is the peak and, like, fully fleshing that idea out.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know, because, like, I definitely, I don't know if I necessarily got, like, that, definitely, like, the whole, like, older brother thing. I think I just saw him as, like, literally a protector because, well, that's his role in the story. But, like, it's not. I thought it was done fairly well for what it was, like a 50-minute movie. Like, they explained that pretty well, and they executed as well as they could, I would say.
Yeah, like, of course, like, of course, like, there's details that I would like to be fleshed out further. Like, they were gonna do. Apparently, there was a potential ZO sequel series where it's like, oh, it's a full show now, and there was gonna be a secondary writer, and I'm not even kidding you what the secondary writer was called, Kamen Rider Gay. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, I had to bring that up.
No, it's good. I'm glad you did. That's funny.
Yeah, but it was the 90s.
It was the 90s. That's true.
But yeah, that just things. Apparently, like the movie did well. It's just plans just creatively fell through, so they just decided to do J the next year, and then like that was kind of the end of the current era because, like, after J, the creator was like working on like another Kamen Rider revival project, Shotaro Shinomori, but he passed away before he could complete it. So basically, everyone else, like a bunch of creative people at Toei, basically took those ideas, fleshed them out, and basically revived Kamen Rider in the 2000s with Kuga. And that's kind of like now Kamen Rider has consistently been a big thing ever since.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't know if I necessarily want like a direct sequel to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a spiritual sequel.
Yeah, I would rather like people like take the ideas that this movie has and like maybe like form something out of that. Like, cuz a direct sequel, I don't know, like, and especially at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the actor hasn't even done anything. The main actor for ZO hasn't really done anything.
Yeah. I don't know, because like, I mean, well, this is coming from me and like, you know, my experience with sequels, and especially like legacy sequels, like years later, where are they now? It's like more often than not that stuff disappoints, and it's like, you know what, I'm fine with this movie just being the way it was.
Yeah, and you still like see ZO like the Sue like in like legacy events.
Sure.
So it's like he's still remembered.
Yeah, of course. Like I'd rather that than, you know, like he just shows up as like a side character in something.
Yeah.
Is, you know, the impression I'm getting from how you're describing it.
More of like a background character. Doesn't really talk. He's just like we need all the Kamen Riders. All right, here's all the Kamen Riders, you know?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. That's just like so interesting to me. Like I can't even like compare that to anything the way you're describing it. But like maybe that's a good thing. Like I can't really compare this to anything that I'm familiar with. Like it's a brand new experience for me. So yeah, that's great.
And actually, like you were talking about like wanting like a spiritual sequel. The time we're recording this, Shin Kamen Rider, made by the Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman people, like specifically Hideaki Anno, just came out in theaters. This was like unintentionally timed really well.
So that's interesting. So like when I looked up Kamen Rider on Letterboxd, like yeah, that was the top result was Shin Kamen Rider. I'm like, wait a minute. So and that's essential, and that's essentially a spiritual sequel to this.
No, it basically like it has the same. It seems it's gonna have like a lot of the same like practical effects. It's more based on the original Kamen Rider from 1971 than this, but like this is probably the closest we're gonna get to those like creature designs and practical effects because apparently they did not want to use a lot of CG for that movie. They wanted to do like a lot of like practical, like to get back to 1971 film techniques was their idea.
Right.
For that movie.
Right.
And like it's not out in America yet. If it was out, I would have picked it instead because that's like that because it's Hideaki Anno, the Evangelion guy, and I'm pretty sure most people have seen Shin Godzilla, so they have like a frame of reference.
I have not yet. That's one of those movies that's been in my watch list for years, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But I've been meaning to.
Yeah, I think you'll like it, but like, yeah, we unintentionally timed this really well of Shin Kamen Rider's Japanese theatrical release.
Well, there you go. Yeah, good for us.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's probably the closest we're gonna get to like kind of this like of course Shin Kamen Rider is probably gonna be a bit longer, but that kind of like practical effects, but with like that lot of earnest heart and soul. And like classic Showa era like sensibilities, because like I'll tell you, Kamen Rider could like change its sensibilities from series to series so much. Like I wouldn't say it's like Doctor Who in that regard, because like Doctor Who still kind of is like the same like kind of like sci-fi. Because Kamen Rider could switch from like sci-fi to fantasy to like freaking whatever is going on in Geats right now. Like, it's a crazy series, but it's one I love dearly.
Kamen Rider is just this grasshopper superhero in Lord of the Rings world.
Well, like even then, it's just like even though like you know a lot of Kamen Riders early on were like grasshoppers or bugs, now they're just like foxes and like freaking rabbit tank hybrids and like clocks. It's a wild series, man, and I love it a lot. I'm glad I was able to like even just like give you a taste. of like this
Yeah,
whole
no, of course. Okay, so like, so the grasshopper hero in this, is he called Kamen Rider?
Yes.
Okay, but Kamen Rider can like
it's a title.
It's a title. Okay, so it's not necessarily the name.
Yeah, the name, like the little
hero.
subtitle, ZO. Like,
okay, ZO. Okay, so that separates this hero from, like, say, another hero named Kamen Rider.
Yeah, like,
okay,
there's Kamen Rider like ZO, and then the next one would be J, because he would just be called J, you know?
Okay, that makes sense. I think I was trying to ask that earlier, and I just forgot
It happens.
to. But like, yeah, but I mean, again, I'm brand new to this. I'm a filthy normie to this.
No, I don't
stuff.
like using that term. I feel like a lot of people use it derogatory, so I just like using general audience, you know?
Okay, I'm a filthy general audience member.
You're not as, like, I call myself like freaking like too deep into this shit for my own good.
No, that's good. I'm glad you're so passionate about this, because like I like when I bring on people and they're like passionate about something I have zero knowledge in, and then they just like go on and on about it. Like, I think that's great. Like, it's I'm learning something new, like the audience is learning something new.
Yeah.
Like, I love that shit. Yeah, it's a good experience for all, I would say.
Also, like, actually, speaking of going on and on, let's talk about the freaking like DVD stuff, because we didn't watch this on DVD.
No, I watched this on YouTube.
Yeah, because Toei has been releasing some Kamen Rider on YouTube, mostly just first 2 episodes and like a full movie when they can applicable, and this is applicable. Unfortunately, the quality for that, like, while it's very easy accessible, it's not the highest quality it can be, and I think it's cropped weirdly, even though they have like higher transfers. It's weird. I don't know what they're doing there. I probably should have like took you to like the other side of like to get you a higher quality copy, but it happens.
It wasn't like distracting.
Yeah,
is the thing. It was. I'm used to 4:3 just because I still watch VHS tapes, and a lot of those are in 4:3. So
yeah,
it depends.
Well, actually, did you know that Kamen Rider ZO actually got a release in the West, like a DVD release?
Oh,
it's a weird one. It was.
Yeah, they usually are, but yeah,
Sega CD game.
Wait, the movie got a Sega CD release.
Yeah, where it's like you press buttons to get a high score while things happen in the movie. And there's like a terrible English dub attached to it.
So you're playing the movie?
Yeah, like, I guess it's like freaking like Dragon's Lair type beat.
Dragon's Lair? Yeah, I guess it would be like kind of Dragon's, but Dragon's Lair was designed as a game. Thing. This is designed as a movie.
So it's weird.
So if you don't like beat. So if like you don't beat the level properly, like does it just repeat the scenes?
I don't know. I haven't actually played it because Sega CD emulation. But I do know it exists, and
that's bizarre.
Now another thing is, like a while ago, there was like an announcement from Media Blasters that they weren't gonna like they had gotten the license for this movie, and like Shin Prologue and the 2000s Batman Begins-esque reboots of Kamen Rider, the first and the next, for a DVD release. Nothing has been announced since then. There's been no updates, no like, oh, we're delaying this, it's taking a bit, or just like, oh, it's happening, but we don't know when it's happening. It might be because like Kamen Rider's trying to break into the West, but like it's been a hard thing. Well, you got like 50 years of cat thing, and also it's just Toei is just being super stingy about like what to bring over and like who to license it to. Like there are 3 companies making DVDs and Blu-rays right now: Shout Factory, Discotech, and Media Blasters.
Oh man,
it's weird.
That's frustrating. I hate when like companies or people or just like something's announced where it's just like, oh, we're gonna bring this to physical media, so then it's more easily accessible, and then nothing happens for years on end, and you're just like, what's taking so long? Like I think William told me like Peter Jackson was planning on getting like his first 3 movies out on like a nice 4K Blu-ray, that being blanking on the names, but it was like Meet the Feebles, Brain Dead, and Bad Taste. Like his first 3 movies are Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles, and Brain Dead or Dead Alive, depending on what region you're from. And like he announced that was happening, and then nothing has happened yet. it's been like years since he said that. It's just like, God damn it, Peter Jackson, give me my 4K Blu-ray of Meet the Feebles. Like, I want to torture more people with that movie.
Wow. Yeah, but like I do like Discotheque and Shout have actually released stuff. I have it on my shelf over there. I will say Discotheque is like, because Discotheque, they just have like a lot more just actual special features, like little essays on the thing. The Shout Factory stuff is just the show and like maybe a movie related to the show. So it's a hit and miss on the whole releasing front right now of Kamen Rider on DVD and home video. Ultraman's doing like way better. I have like actually a complete set of like most of the new generation line, and I was like I would not dream of that like 3 years ago, and it's like, whoa, that's insane to me.
Oh, maybe that's good news. Maybe that's like foreshadowing what's to come. Like, if Ultraman does well enough, do you think Kamen Rider has a chance?
Oh yeah, maybe, but like the thing is, Subaraya is very like two different companies. If Subaraya, they're more like they go all in when they have a thing. Toei is like they dip their toe.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's an odd thing, and like I hope the home release streaming thing can get better for both of those things. I mean, Ultraman's actually doing really good. I don't really have many complaints. But like Kamen Rider needs to step up its game, with its like home video market. But like I get it, like politics, company shit happens. So
yeah, of course. Now, so what you're saying is like this particular movie that we watched that has like no physical release, or
outside of the Sega CD, there's no physical American release for this.
Okay, the Sega CD. I still can't get over that's too funny.
Yeah, it's a very odd rarity, and it was releasing during the time Saban tried to make a Kamen Rider adaptation called Mask Rider. It was that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. All right, well, I mean, if that's the case, then I guess I can't have this physically at the moment. Now, would I in the future if an opportunity arose? Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, I had fun with this movie. I probably would own it on physical. If I was able to, I probably would.
Yeah, like, if the opportunity came for me, I just instantly... I mean, I'm kind of, like, trying to build, like, I review Tokusatsu on my YouTube, so I want to build, like, a media shelf of, like, here is all the stuff I own on DVD and Blu-ray, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, so yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily jump on it as fast as you would, but I would not be opposed to this joining the collection. Yeah. It's just a matter of time, I suppose.
Yeah, we just gotta wait for things to fall into place, hopefully.
Yeah. All right, was there anything else you wanted to say about Kamen Rider? You keep saying ZO.
Yeah.
I say ZO.
I mean,
just because I'm a filthy American.
No, it's fine. There actually is a Kamen Rider called GO or ZO, but that's like in 2018.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and also I don't really care how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure like some of the comment section will, but like I don't really care. Like, pronounce it like whatever feels more comfortable to you.
I'll say grasshopper.
Yeah,
man.
grasshopper man. That's a good one. That's a good one.
All right then. Buster, do you want to shout out your stuff? Where can people find you? Tell them.
Hey, I run a YouTube channel called Buster Corp. I review Tokusatsu and other things occasionally. Mostly Tokusatsu. I literally just released a video on Gridman. But I also do a bunch of other podcasts like this. On my own channel, I started doing an OKKO rewatch podcast called Lakewood Podcast Turbo with my good buddy Itzeldy Magic / Wyatt. And also I have a side channel on Modular Media, which is basically my group channel, where we do too many podcasts. If you want to hear us talk more about Tokusatsu with like more expertise, quote unquote, we do like This Week in Toku, where we cover all the new releases and whatever old stuff we've been watching. We do Modular Components, which is basically just we shoot the shit, sometimes with a guest. We do Analytical Fanboys, where one of us picks out like a long series or like gives us a month to watch something, and we watch it and then we discuss it. It's like a book club. And I swear we had... I'm not on this podcast, but it's on the channel. No Prize podcast, where they talk all things comics, Marvel, DC, whatever they're cooking up this week. Like, that's all the shills. I'm also on Twitter, if you so choose, at BusterBlue3, where I tweet too many dumb shit, mostly jokes.
Nice. Do you got a letterbox?
Oh yeah, letterbox.
People's letterbox.
Find that. I think it's Buster. Let me just freaking log in quick. It's Buster Corpse. For some reason Buster Corp was already taken, so it's Corpse. Like, so I put a little S. I really only use it like when I have to. I don't really like go out of my way to do it. But like, hey, it's fun to do it.
Yeah. I usually try to plug people's letterbox just because, you know, I'm always on Letterboxd. It's kind of my thing. I'm addicted to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a nice service.
It is a nice service when it actually works.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, all your links will be in the description below. So yeah, thanks for coming on. I had a lot of fun talking about these two movies. Technically, you know, quote unquote movies.
Yeah, that's the actual through line. They're quote unquote movies.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you, the listener. I'm pointing to you, the audience. You're not seeing me pointing to you because this is an audio-based podcast, but I'm pointing to you. Thank you for listening. If you want to support the show, give a like, give a comment, listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Apparently, Anchor doesn't exist anymore. It turned into Spotify for podcasts.
Yeah, that blows.
Which is kind of weird. Yeah, it was weird. But that's still how I put the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So listen to those if you want. But yeah, thanks for listening. And always remember, if you're wondering how he eats and breathes and other science facts, just repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax. On Mystery Science Theater
3000.
Okay, bye-bye. Just